So here's the thing: when you think Scorsese, apparently you only think mafia movies, even though the guy's only made less than a handful.
Yeah.
Or I guess a handful. Let's say a handful, just to round it out. He's made other shit, people.
Yeah.
But people insist, especially in this MCU riddled universe, that that's all he makes.
Yep.
Just shows their ignorance. In case you're wondering where we stand on this whole Martin Scorsese versus the MCU, hashtag he's right. At least that's where I stand. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing the MCU has made that stands up to anything in Scorsese's toilet, much less his filmography. That's where I'm at. I don't know where you stand. I don't know if you want to burn on this hill with me.
Yeah.
But
well, let me just throw my hat in the bucket by saying this is one fine piece of cinema.
Yeah.
Cinema being the key word.
Yeah.
Marvel movies.
Yeah, man.
Or flicks. See, that wouldn't even come in as movies. Flicks.
Fun flicks.
Yeah.
We like MCU all day long. Maybe not all day long. That'd be too much of the same stuff.
Yeah.
But we like our MCU. It's fun stuff.
Flicks.
But yeah, they're flicks. You know, some people say, well, cinema, I mean, it's you know, semantics. It's not. The word cinema has many meanings.
Yeah.
It could just literally mean movies. But I think we all know what the connotation of the word cinema is now.
Yeah.
It refers to films with substance that have artful meaning, you know? Nothing in the MCU has, you know, I'm sorry. And look, and we're not saying that there's no value to how attached you get to the characters here. Yeah, of course there is. That's part of the enjoyment process. But I also enjoy shitty movies where you don't attach it, like The Room.
Yeah.
There's nobody in that, and I have the same amount of fun watching that as I do an MCU movie. But it's different when you go into an experience and enjoy it as a piece of art as well as a piece of film. And I think...
interestingly enough, if you're from overseas, mainly the UK, cinema just means the theater.
Yeah, let's go to the cinema.
So this freaking entire argument is retarded over there.
It really is. In the end, look, I think there's certain people that have earned the right to say something, and I think Scorsese's one of them.
Yeah.
He has an impeccable filmography.
It's like if you made like a dish, a bologna dish, and like, I'm trying to think of a better chef, but I'm just gonna use Gordon Ramsay
All right.
as an excuse or as an example. If Gordon Ramsay came up to and said, "This freaking bologna sandwich sucks," he knows a thing or two about bologna. Well, I was about to say about food. So you're just like, you know what? Yeah,
I'm sure he mastered bologna sandwich at age 2.
Yeah, it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, man. There's certain people that have earned that right, and you know, Scorsese is one of those people.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to get a filmography as damn near perfect, dare I say even perfect, as Scorsese. You know, some directors go fucking decades, and they're a great example. Somebody came up and said even worse things about the MCU, Francis Ford Coppola. Look, he's coasting on his 70s output.
Yeah.
And I love Coppola, and he's made good stuff since then, but he's never touched his own quality of the 70s.
Yeah.
Ever again.
Homie cast Keanu Reeves as Harker.
Yeah, man, that alone is like, come on,
dude.
dude, what are you doing? Trying to make an MCU movie? Anyway, Keanu Reeves now in an MCU movie. But the point is, yeah, man, you know, Scorsese has gone decades making great film after great. His failures are what other fucking people would call their great movies. You know? In fact, one of his greatest successes and one of his greatest financial and commercial failures, or I should say financial and initially critical failures, were meshed together to make what is now, I think, across the board considered by many, possibly, definitely by us, one of the best comic book movies. Not MCU, and that would be the Joker, you know, or the Joker the movie, you know. It's basically ripping on Scorsese. At one point, he was attached to do that, you know. So it's not to say the guy never said, "I hate those movies, tear them down."
Yeah.
He said what they are, and that's what they are, and that's where we stand. Honestly, I mean, it is what it is, man. There's nothing wrong with being fun, entertaining movies. You know, Al Smith said it best, I think, when he said sometimes it's okay to have fun with a movie, Of course, then he went off and railed against him. So what the hell, Al?
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is, I mean, we stand with Marty as far as that goes.
Hashtag stand with Marty.
Hashtag he's alone, but he doesn't care because he's made classics. Damn it!
Yeah.
The day someone the MCU
Also-
makes a fucking Akira Kurosawa like film, then maybe talk
Yeah.
to me.
Also, hashtag Francis Ford Crapula.
And
On
Ford Coppola needs to do some serious upkeep on his
dude,
filmography.
like, come on, dude, don't talk shit when your films have been sucking my crock off. I don't know what a crock is.
But you have one. But anyway, today we're going to talk about some would say, the perennial Scorsese classic, Goodfellas. I think as far as mainstream appeal goes, this is the one that, you know, most people gravitate towards to. Although, you know, he's made quite a few that could possibly contend with it. But I think this is the most far-reaching. You know, it's kind of like De Palma when he did Scarface. There's something about the mobster, the mafia movie, the gangster movie that reaches across the American landscape, which I guess is a very scary thing to say. You know, it's almost like these characters are instead of being vilified, they're glorified in America. And there's something to be said about that, sure, but I think a lot of it has to do with the idea of the self-made person, the idea of the independent, which is a very American ideal. You know, ironically, given that, you know, there's, of course, an illegal quality to these characters. But anyway, Goodfellas, starring Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci. I think this is a film that, especially for Liotta, they could never really, you know, catch up to ever again. And I mean, Liotta had some great ones, but you know, I don't think his career ever quite reached this peak again. Of course, De Niro, sure, of course, he did a few times, and then he did what is the fucking bullshit movie called? Meet the Fockers?
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, there was that weird period of time where it was just the old funny grandpa
Yeah,
in movies. And you're
that was
like,
a weird
well,
period.
that's weird, isn't
It
it?
was not a good period.
Yeah.
But I guess he did it better than some other ones did it.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So there's that to be said.
It's still a weird period.
It's embarrassing. It's shockingly embarrassing. And Pesci just kind of
disappeared,
retired, recently came back out of retirement to do The Irishman, a Scorsese film, which brings Pesci and De Niro back under the fold, if you will. But we're talking about Goodfellas, the story of Henry Hill. You know, this is, of course, based on a true story. And, yeah, man, it runs the width and breadth of somebody's life in the mafia, you know, from inception to the rickety narc ending. And we get a touch of everything. The allure of the power, the family, the influence, the respect, and also, you know, the downfall, the chaos, the horrible, unavoidable elements that come with being in this lifestyle. So, yeah, and I gotta say, it delivers all this in a very unique way. You know, it's kind of almost like something that is avoided. You know, like the plague when it comes to screenwriting. It's in a a narration-heavy script. You know, it's almost like the dialogue takes a back seat to the narration. Given that the material is culled from a book that, you know, really allows for that style to be used, you know, there's an excuse for them to use it. But do you think that this technique worked in its favor or against it, given that, you know, normally screenwriters stay away from that style?
I think it helps quite a bit because there is a lot of when there is a narration, there is, you know, dialogue obviously with the characters, and there's kind of like so much stuff going on with their plots that it's kind of easy to get lost.
Yeah.
And the narration always just kind of keeps you in line, basically, knowing what's up, and
it does bring to focus what is important, you know. Whereas in another mobster movie or mafia movie, the, you know, criminal enterprise elements would be most likely the focus. There's something bigger going on here. This is not so much about this scheme.
Yeah.
You know, it's more about this character and where he's at and where this life is inevitably hurtling him towards to at fucking alarming speeds. Yeah, I think you're right. That narration really allows the audience to keep focus because there is so much going on here. It's literally from youth to this guy's eventual capture. So we cover a number of decades here. It was an interesting approach, especially towards the end where we get one of the most famous fourth wall breaks in cinema history. Which now we're used to it, but back then it was like, what the fuck? This is weird. But we should have maybe expected it at that point. We've been talked to the whole movie. Now, in some other, I should say, with lesser talent behind the screenwriting, this technique could come off as condescending, but I think Goodfellas pulls it off without ever going there. It's you seeing things through the eyes of this particular person and his wife, at times. So it's used, I think, very efficiently as a tool. Give me something, man. Anything you like about this?
Some might say it's quite cinematic.
Yeah, some would. Definitely not the MCU guys. No, but give me something about this film you either like or dislike. Give it to me.
I do like how, since you mentioned it, that it does take place over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how it just kind of sets some stuff up, and then it'll show up later, but it doesn't do it like a normal movie would, where it's like, this is what you're gonna have to remember, guy. Mm-hmm. It just ends up coming back, especially with the Joe Pesci thing later on.
There's a very natural way to the way things happen in this, and to add to that,
it kind of lets you like get used to how things are going, so that you kind of don't expect that stuff to come back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
We're used to film where it's almost spring loaded as a trap.
Yeah,
like you're just waiting for that particular moment that's set up. Here we get that, but like, since it's set up so much like real life, where there's just stuff happening, so much stuff. It's not that you forget; it's that just like real life, it takes a back seat to everything else going on. So when it does come, it's almost like a pleasant surprise, or unpleasant, as it were, given the circumstances of some of the things that happen. So it allows for a very unique viewing experience that I think mirrors life a lot closely than we appreciate when we watch this thing. Also, I gotta say that the way the characters are depicted, their surroundings, the costumes and all this stuff, the set dressing, all very much a period true and exactly what you would see in this type of scenario. We come now, mind you, where we live, there's not an Italian mafia, but there's a lot of Mexican mafiosi, and there's a lot of similarities in that. And you just see the trappings of it all, when you get money and power and all that stuff. And it's so well visually represented here with the, kind of like the gaudy, not gaudy, not John Travolta gaudy, but gaudy apparel and the over flashy, just it's too much money spent on garbage approach to the fucking furnishings. All that Cadillacs stuff is all those trappings are there.
The only thing it needed was more horses.
Yeah, if this was a Mexican one, there'd be horses everywhere. So you could see how all that stuff is paid homage quite well here, and again gives that an air of a feasibility, reality that, say, a movie like, and I'm not deriding this movie by no means, but The Godfather keeps it classier, for lack of better words. There's almost like a desire for you to replicate what The Godfather.
It's a little too clean.
Yeah, it's it gives it something to admire, a polish to this lifestyle. The Godfather does, whereas this is like really from the outside looking in, it's not really something you want to pursue.
I do think it does start it off in a way that makes you go, you know what, that'd be kind of cool, hanging out with your boys and shit. Yeah. And then as it goes along, you get more of that, and you're like, never mind.
Yeah, which is, I mean, of course, that goes with the narrative of the character, but it's something I admire about this movie.
Visually, too, it's very, very much there.
Yeah. It's something I admire about this movie because, again, the status quo with mafioso movies are, it depicts shit in a glamorous way where you end up wanting to be there. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This puts you in the shoes of the character where he desired this, And by the end, even though it's like an addiction. By the end, even though he still desires it, he'd rather not be dead. So there's that. So yeah, very, very, very cool. I gotta say, the tapestry that is woven of this little kind of like microcosm that they live in is, in fact, his wife puts that idea across to the audience quite well, that the more you're among the people, the more normal it seems. And that's exactly the type of feeling this thing gives you.
Yeah.
In fact, it's until he kind of goes off on his own that it becomes to feel more hectic and chaotic. And
which is interesting, because like the movie literally starts with something they've done already that you should not get that feeling with.
Yeah, exactly.
It starts you off that way, and then it builds that feeling up to a point you're comfortable with them, and later you're like, oh man.
And then it brings you full circle. Yeah, it's almost, I mean, not almost, it is ingenious the way they manage to foster a comfort with characters that, in all honesty, there should be no comfort around. But they do that exactly. And this is a lengthy movie, and it spends a good portion of that acclimating you to their world and making you so at ease with what's going on that you can't help but be at unease when they are at unease, which of course comes at the the latter portion of the film. So very, very good stuff there. Also got to say, I really like the soundtrack in this. There's a lot of soundtrack selections in this, a lot of old school stuff, which I know is your jam. So that's again, whenever there's a notable soundtrack, that's always a big plus, because soundtracks can be horribly misused. And this is one of the ones that's, of course, fucking fantastic.
Yeah, so I was like,
so of course we have some big personalities here, some great actors of the highest caliber. Who was your favorite character here, and why?
I think my boy, the Fokker himself.
Fuckerama, they call him?
Robert De Niro, because he's kind of like, well, okay, you got two characters that are pretty much insane. Well, obviously, relative to their surroundings, and with that being Joe Pesci and him.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Pesci's just like the crazy guy.
Loose cannon.
Yeah. But something about De Niro's more like calculated evilness is more unsettling.
Yeah.
And then you see like these little parts where he just completely goes crazy, and though rare, they do happen, and you're just kind of like, man, this is a freaking freaky ass. He's just an intimidating guy without playing it that way,
Whereas with Pesci, who does a fantastic job, you always feel on edge. He comes off very comedic. There's a lot of darkly comic moments in this movie, and a lot of them are attributed to him, because he is a funny guy, to say the least, but you always feel on edge with him, which is wonderful, because that's exactly what his character is supposed to be. And with Jimmy, that's to say Robert De Niro's character, like you say, it's more of like this eventuality to his character.
Yeah.
Like, that this is going to go bad, and it's almost like you don't want to, because like he is kind of like the ideal version of this gangster material, He's got shit in control, and he's willing to keep shit in control. Willing to do anything to keep shit in control. But that's also laced with constant menace, more so than the trigger-happy Pesci character. So yeah, man, he really, in all honesty, he steals the show for me. Which I know a lot of people lean towards more Pesci, because he is, of course, kind of like this larger-than-life character. But yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. He really, really does something bigger and more understated at the same time, in my opinion, than Pesci does. Of course, let's talk about Liotta here, who, this was kind of like a career-making or breaking, if you want to see it that way, a role, unless you count Heartbreakers as his greatest role yet.
It's a movie?
It's a movie, dude. It's a movie.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. It's not good. He's had a few good roles since then. Like movies like Narc are really good, but this was kind of like his peak in a lot of ways, which is sad. But he does a really good job here. Do you think? And this is kind of like it's a very subjective question. Do you think he elicits some sort of sympathy in you, or where were you at? I'll phrase it that way. Where were you at with his character as far as this? Because I always found this interesting whenever talking about this movie. He seems to be the character that most people are undecided on.
Yeah.
You know, because he is kind of he is kind of your consciousness and subconsciousness working at the same time while you're watching the movie. So it's almost like you in real life. You don't even see yourself going around the circumstances of your life. And because the narrative and the way this movie is presented allows you to kind of put blinders onto him. You know, a lot of people have like, you know, a weird reception. They seem like they've never even thought about it sometimes when I ask.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because like when it comes, he has the most moments where he shows humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean a humanity named Hugh. He's the coolest guy in this movie. Anyway, you know, like when the kid gets shot in the foot, you know, he like rushes out and shit. And early on, they show shit like that. But then, like as the movie goes along, he becomes a bigger asshole to his like wife and shit, and you're just kind of like, damn, he's not a cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he is the most human, I guess. You know, like the other two are just like crazy in their own way,
mm-hmm.
whereas he's just kind of like, I guess. But yeah, like he's not a likable dude when you think about it.
Yeah,
it's just the fact that he is the narrator. You're just kind of along for the ride.
I find it interesting that in the story, they make passing comments about the way he kind of extends help to other people. Several people, in fact, you know, like they point out what they see as a character flaw. Especially, you know, obviously in their circles. But I don't know if it was intentional. I'm assuming it was, you know, an intentional, like, red flag for where his character was going. But, I mean, we can't really say because real life mirrored this, obviously. So, but, yeah, he never... I'm with you. He never reaches that point where you're like, yeah, I like that guy. You know, not even in a movie sense, you know, like... We like the assholes in movies, but in real life we'd kick them in the nuts if we could. So it's an interesting position to be in, to be the most upfront character, and yet kind of at the same time, I don't want to say forgettable because he's not that obviously, but you know, just kind of like be part of the set dressing almost, you know. It's a weird state to be in. But anyway, give me something else before we cap this off. Good or bad? Would you find any negatives in this picture?
No, I don't. There was that one scene that had this weird line running down it.
Oh yeah, that was weird. What the fuck was that? That has nothing to do with the picture, but this is a good remaster right here. This particular version. In case you're wondering, there's 2 Blu-ray versions out there. Get the one with this cover, because the other one, it's not good. It's not good unless you like super amounts of grain. But yeah, for some reason there was this one scene that had just a black line running down the middle.
Big one too.
That was weird.
Yeah, one great.
I was like,
also Ray Liotta's an ugly laugher.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna say that's one of the best meme laughs ever, though.
It's such a weird laugh.
It's almost as good as Brendan Fraser's.
Is it though?
Yeah, that's right. That's the best.
It's great, dude.
Well, it ruined Brendan, but the point is.
No, it's a good movie. It's cinematic. You know.
Hashtag cinematic.
It's giving us a video to put up on YouTube, as I like to call it.
Yeah, now it is. Use guys
tube.
So yeah. Look, man. Again, this is the go-to movie for a lot of people when it comes to Scorsese, and for some reason, it just and I've heard this argument in these threads with the MCU thing, which doesn't die.
Yeah, I know.
And I blame it on these fucking jackbeat articles that are constantly being posted everywhere. Like, dude, just get over it. But then, of course, there's the fanboys that are just like adamantly fucking jumping off cliffs for the MCU. Like, dude, it's okay.
Yeah, not everyone has to.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna achieve greatness.
Iron Man,
you know. But whatever. This is one of the go-to ones that people think when they think Scorsese, and it's cast a shadow where they just reduce Scorsese to a gangster movie guy. Now, some would say that's ironic because they think maybe Scorsese has reduced an entire genre into pablum. And I'd say, sure, it's a little ironic, but honestly, the man is Scorsese. He doesn't have the fucking time to watch every single superhero movie out there and go, oh, that's a good one. For the most part, he's 100% right. So, a little generalizing comment on his behalf, sure. But so far, kind of fucking on the head. With Scorsese, though, you can't argue that at all. He's only made a handful of gangster movies. And he has one of the most varied filmographies. He's made a Jesus movie, for crap's sake.
Yeah, that is weird.
You know what I'm saying? Taxi Driver, Mean Streets. He's made comedies. A Hugo, a movie, that did zero business here, but it's just an absolute. If you love cinema as an art, that's a movie you have to see.
Did you say it's cinematic?
Oh, I'd say it's cinematic, baby. The Aviator, he's just made such a wide variety of movies, and they've never, ever sucked. Which I can definitely not say about the MCU.
Yeah.
Fuck! There's some shitty movies in there.
Yeah, Iron Man 3.
But, we can love great art just as much as we can love fun, entertaining art. And that's that. That's where we stand on that. Felt like necessary that we should talk about that because it's never apparently going to be stopped talked about. So anyway, let's give this a final rating on a scale of 1 to 10 relative to films of its type and or the MCU. But anyway,
compared to the MCU is a straight 10.
So it's straight 50.
Everything else is a 0 compared to other cinematic films, fine cinema, if you will. I feel like film and cinema are like the ones that you should reserve to like good movies.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man.
Movies and flicks.
In fact, sometimes you'll catch me doing that when we talk about stuff. Like, I'm kind of loath to call, I don't know, fucking... In fact, I'm very loath to call something like Black Panther a cinema or film. It sounds ridiculous. Yeah. It's a fucking movie. That's it. And a shitty one at that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I'm 100% okay with like calling a Cassavetes movie or a Herzog movie or a fucking Almodovar movie or whatever the fuck. People that have achieved something greater than just a fucking 2-hour, hand down the pants moment. Like, come on, man. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I feel that shit is run its course. We gotta stop it right now. We gotta whack it.
Yeah, dude. Whack that shit. By that I mean my weenie.
Yeah, we just mean our weenies and the manatee named Hugh, which coincidentally is us.
Yeah. So look. This is a good movie. It's super long, but it doesn't feel long. I hadn't seen this somehow
it's pretty shocking.
I saw Casino, but I didn't see this.
Yeah, I'm kind of like angry at myself that I showed you Casino before this. Not, because it's just kind of like.
I did like Casino.
Again, since this is film we're talking about, cinema, if you will, there's kind of like a way that you watch it,
Order.
Yeah, there's got to be a sense of order to things.
You got to pay tribute. So, I want to pay tribute to this movie by giving it this film, by giving it a perfect 10. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. It's earned its reputation. It's earned its stripes. There's a reason people still talk about this movie. Yeah. There's a reason it's held in such high regard that goes beyond those people that glorify this type of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's like a subset of people that are just dumb. Like people that watch Scarface, like, Tony Montana's a cool guy.
Yeah, and look, we love Scarface, and to be fair, Scarface, it presents itself in a way where it's easy to get carried away with the fantasy of that lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? I could see why people would think that that's cool because it doesn't deliver its fairly awful scenario in an awful way. This one does in a very realistic way, no less. It would be interesting to see this movie done in like a cinema verite style where then the realism would be all the more high. But that's not Scorsese style at all. But it would be interesting just because there's no way you could mistake that anymore. But I don't think this is a movie where that's an issue. And I think that's why people sometimes prefer Scarface over it. In fact, that's got to be the only reason, because as good as Scarface is, it's nowhere near as good as this is. Like, at all. So, whatever. The point is, it's a fucking masterpiece, There's a reason people talk about it. There's a reason, Scorsese, again, a little unfair for him because he's made other masterpieces that if some people just expanded their reach beyond certain things, they could indulge in. But I say if you're going to be represented by one movie your whole life, it's not a bad one to go on, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to give it a 10, just like you. Tell us what you think. Where are you on this MCU versus Martin Scorsese movie? And why the hell are we seeing... That's right, they're making the movie.
It's a movie, dude. We're playing Martin.
I was going to say this MCU versus Martin Scorsese issue, and why hasn't that been a movie yet? But I fucked it up. So anyway, now you know why I'm not a filmmaker. But I'm right in line to make an MCU movie.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. They're giving them away to everyone nowadays.
Yeah.
You just got to have one movie under your belt, apparently.
The next movie is going to be directed by, Shane.
What else, Shane?
Shane? Who's Shane?
I don't know.
The only Shane that you should know.
O'Mac?
Yeah, Shane O'Mac. That's exactly. The next one's gonna be directed by Shane Dawson.
Damn, dude.
And it's gonna be just him and his friends laughing.
Yeah, it's like 8 parts, and there's like nothing happens on them.
Yeah, and then Captain America will do this for no reason. Like, dude, stop that.
Still better than Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther was not good. Anyway.
These guys need to watch this.
Tell us what you think about this movie. Hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons and down below. And let us know all your thoughts. In the meantime, we're out.